Hello there, and welcome to my little arty corner here on YouTube. I'm Angela, and I love to draw, and I love to share drawing with you and my hints and tips and the things that I love to do. And I know I've been missing for more than 2 weeks now. Let's just say it's been a challenging time in different ways, and leave it at that. So, I seem to have a bit more energy today, which is a good thing. I did yesterday, but yesterday was not the right day for me to do this. But for whatever reason, it just wasn't. I think it's because, I know why, it's because I was lost in sketching or in drawing yesterday. And sometimes when I get that way, it can be very hard for me to put it down and leave it, especially when it's helping me emotionally, mentally, and even soothing myself physically as well. So let's start by having a look at what I have been doing, because I haven't been inactive over the last couple of weeks. My art has been pretty slow in doing and so on. I seem to have spent an awful lot of time sleeping. So I think I'm close to being totally burnt out. I may not be, it may be a combination of other things, but I've still been drawing, but I've also done a fair amount of crochet and knitting for something different, for a change. It's when I'm not inspired to draw, when I don't feel like drawing, I know there's something not right. And I think a break was needed. But when I take a break, it means that my mind is mulling over things as well. I don't sit and consciously think about things, but there's stuff ticking away. And I think there's been some serendipitous moments in the past couple of days where I've gone, now that makes sense. And I may come back to that. But let's have a look at some of the art I've done. So I'll start with these which are from my big sketchbook. I've gone to an A4 sketchbook, and I haven't done anything with the junk journal-y style thing. I'm not entirely sure that's the right way for me to go. I'll come back to that later, because I do have a very grasshopper brain, and I know that when I start talking I can bounce around things and it can be difficult to follow. So let's start by having a look at this. This is something that is very typically me. Abstract, stylized, very flowing lines, very simple, perfect for adding colour or texture patterns too. I have scanned this and the other ones you'll see in, so that if I decide to add more to this one, I've still got a good copy of it digitally. Because I don't feel wanting to do digital art particularly at the moment in terms of drawing, but or colouring actually. I've had some nightmares with colours. I'll come back to that as well. But this brought me a lot of pleasure. It's quite plain and simple in many ways. You might not think so, but there's very few motifs or patterns in here. They're all based on the same, or they're based on the same shapes and lines and curves and all the kinds of shapes that I like to draw. And that's where I'll start with an explanation, is that a meme cropped up on Facebook that was about what kind of visual imagination or visualization you've got. How do you see things in your mind? And the answer is, I don't really. I've known this, but I sometimes get a ghostly idea of things that I may consciously force myself to think about. But mainly, if I need to build up a picture or an image or something, I do it in words. And I think this difficulty in me visualizing things is why I work very intuitively. If I'm creating images and scenes and so on, I need some kind of reference to start from, or something to kickstart my imagination. So for example, with whimsical houses, I need to look at houses and different settings for them and different styles in order to kickstart my sense of what a whimsical house should look like. Same for daydreams. What is a daydream? I don't daydream. I don't. I think art may be my form of daydreaming, but I don't. Or if I do, it's in terms of conversation, but I don't think in conversation. Just best not to. But what I did notice after this, a couple of conversations, is that I had this, I was thinking about what do I draw? What do I imagine when I draw? And I had this feeling that I wanted to draw a particular kind of line. And I couldn't see the line, but I knew what way it would move and you can't see it, but I'm drawing my hand in the way I want to create that line. And that's the feeling I had, was that this is the movement I want to create. This is the line I want to draw. But I couldn't see it, but I could feel it and know what it was. And so it came out in some work, I think in my big book. Yes, in my big book. And it was, but there was a pleasure with this shape of line, the way that it bent and it moved round to create different different shapes and forms as a starting point. And I thought, penny dropped, or piece of a jigsaw puzzle has gone in place. And I think that's a lot of why I create art like this, is that I get pleasure from the shapes I draw, from the way the shapes seem to work together, the lines work together, and then how I add either texture to them or colour or shading. It just seems to work. So you'll see in my work, if you know me well enough, that there are often things that have the same basic shape. These kinds of leaves, the ones that are more pointy and heart-shaped, like these, seed pod shapes, circles, curved lines, sometimes straight lines as the contrast to them, because it's always nice to have some contrast. But these are all lines I like to make. This one is lovely. That was a delight to draw, I can tell you that much now. And spirals are another favourite of mine. And anything that curves round and starts to become a spiral, like Mooka in Zentangle World. But with me, I always end up creating that little bit of a spiral inside, and shell shapes and ammonites and natural patterns and shapes and forms, as well as repetitive forms as well. So this is one, I don't quite know what I'm going to do with it, but I've got it here as an option. This one I actually did use as the basis of a colouring page for the members of the Facebook group Angela Porter's Colouring Book Fans. And again, favourite kinds of line shapes, little wiggles like the top of hearts, and simple circles and circles to fill gaps. But again, these very kind of curving kinds of lines. Again, there's some straight lines there, but they're there as well as they're pleasurable to draw in a different way, but they act as that counterpoint to all the straightness. And again, my favourite kinds of leaves. So these are things that I really enjoy drawing, and these are things that I come back to. And here you can see it's almost like a Mooka. It's not, it's drawn very differently. I might show you how to draw those today. We'll see how much time I have, because this may just be a show and tell and talk through things today. I don't want to exhaust myself too much, because I'm trying to keep myself awake in the day, so I sleep through the night, and I'm trying to get some normalcy of sleep back. It's, yeah, tough. But this one, I did add colour to this part and put a coloured background behind it, and the colours just glowed against the background. And I just thought, okay, that colour always helps to bring things to life. But this one, like with the other one, what I also love to do is I love to play with both dimension and the way that things seem to have that three-dimensionality which comes with shading or with adding colour, shading and highlight. But I also like to play with layers. So we've got layer on layer. So we've got this on the top, then these, then this one, and this one, and these underneath this, and this is underneath that and that. And there's so many layers here that you start looking into things. So it's flat drawn, but there's so much dimension in it. And again, that's something that brings me pleasure, especially when I start to add shading or highlight or colour. You know, do I need to say that every time? Hopefully not. But I like that, and I've got 4 flowers, but I've got an odd number on each side. This separates them, so your brain's not trying to turn them into one group, because we've got this big thing here. Again, these things come in that look a bit like eyes. That one's not so bad, although it could be. Those look like weird teeth. Oh dear. This one, I think this was the first one I did in the series. Yeah, it was the 28th of September. It took me a couple of days to do. But again, it's me, but it's not as me as these are. very small drawings as opposed to much bolder. There's plenty of layering in here, patterns. I suppose it's a different way of me expressing me, but because there's so much different in there, it feels disjointed and incoherent, and that may be because I drew it over a number of drawing sessions. Or it may be a reflection of how I was feeling as well. So I know I started over here, and I think I broke off what I was doing for a while. And I've added some textural patterns, but I haven't finished on this one because I didn't know where I was going with it, so I've just left it. Cloudy shapes, I love these, with the big curve and the little one afterwards. And of course we've got all these curvy bits, and hearts and stars and moons appear, because they're some of my favourite motifs. This, inspired by Rebecca Blair, yet it doesn't feel me now. It's not funny. And again, it was something I talked about in my blog yesterday, because I did do a blog post yesterday where I took an image of the 2 latest things I've been working on and said that I'm forever trying out new media, new sources of inspiration, new ways of doing things, trying different things out, and yet I always come back to the same thing. It's almost like those explorations give me new lines, new shapes, new motifs to work with, but I always seem to end up putting them together in this way. And it may be that I need to start to trust myself a lot more in my process and try to be true to me instead of trying to fit into everything else. I don't know if that makes sense. I know I create art that is distinctly me, but I'm wondering what is really me. And this kind of stuff, the very abstract things. I know this one's got flowers in, but they're very stylized and very abstract. It's not a picture of anything, but it's a design or a composition of things that give me pleasure, and I enjoy drawing the lines for. And I enjoy the layers and the different shapes, and yet the shapes and forms repeat themselves throughout this, even though it might not look like it does. Like these are basically these, just drawn slightly differently. This one is the inside of this without the outside curve. So there's repetition of things all the way through. I mean, I've got sort of leafy shapes here, and I know I did mess up on the repetition here somewhere, but do you know what? Here, does it matter? Not one bit. It is what it is. And here again, you know, that's so cute there. You know, I like cute and whimsical, don't get me wrong, but should that belong with this? I don't think so. I don't know what possessed me to do that. I must have been in a mood where I needed that, or needed something to fill that space in that was beginning to feel very awkward. I do like this though. I do. Those are nice, but I really like these hexagonal things. You can see where they're tucked underneath with some more black than was needed. Okay, so if I go to this book, this is my A5 sketchbook, and you've seen this one. I've been looking at sources like William Morris and medieval manuscripts, Ernst Haeckel. I've got Besler's Botanica. I didn't realise I had it on my Kindle, but I've got a copy of that now as well in book form. Absolutely beautiful. And it's back in the 1700s, no, 1600s, yes. So 17th, 18th centuries. But the very fine pen work to put, looking at it, I haven't got it here to show you, stupid me. But on leaves, or on everything, instead of adding colour in sort of like gradients, the black lines are put on to add the shading, and then the colours added on top where the black darkens it. And I'm just there going, yeah, that makes sense. I can be dim. I really can. But I still like playing with colour, and very simple colours. And again, that's something else that I'll talk about in a moment. You've seen all of these, I think, where I'm not sure, but I'm sure you have. Yes, because I remember doing these with you and drawing some of these. So I've got lots of different things here in my little book. And I did start doing Inktober. And I thought, okay, I need some prompts here. It'd be a really good challenge for me to do. I thought about doing the Inktober Tangle challenge. But when I looked at the list and thought about it, it didn't really grab me. Whereas in years past, I'd have been really enthused about it because the opportunity to create variations on a theme would be there. And yet I thought, I'm not sure that's what I want to do. It doesn't really appeal to me at this time. So I went with the official Inktober prompt list. And my printer's printing out white lines. It needs cleaning. I'll put it on a clean. Anyway, but this is day one, which is Dream. And I added some hand lettering here, which I really enjoyed doing. And it adds a focus to it, and then all the lines and forms are quite dreamy, stars and moon, sunshine. Yeah. Again, sort of like day and night, but with stars that are bright and stars that are dark, rays of sunlight or some other light. And clouds, very dreamy looking. Black and white, but I did use graphite to add shading to it, which in my mind just makes it look mucky. It does work. I mean, it has brought some dimensionality out, it's helped, but not in the way I was looking for. So again, I'm back to charcoal makes it mucky. So this one, I added charcoal to it. This is day 2, it's Spider. Now this one, I really didn't know where I was going with this or what I was going to do. I was happy with the drawing, but I started adding colour and I thought, oh, what was I thinking of? I added shading with graphite before I added colour, and that helps with shading the colours because these are translucent. They are. Did I use? I used the Ecoline watercolour ink pens, but they're just too vibrant. And I even put them on a palette and picked tiny amounts of the colour up, and it's still too bright for me. And it just wasn't working. Of course, this isn't watercolour paper, so there's only so often you can add colour. But the white dots, I've overdone the white dots, I think. Here I added white pencil on the top to bring out a highlight. That's subtler, but I'm still not happy with it. And I think I messed this up. I did redraw a version of it, which I'll show you in a moment, because it's in a different book. And this was for Path. And I'm not happy with any of the colours. They're just not right. Again, it's me going, I need to work more monochromatically or with a very limited colour palette. It's a monochromatic, not black and white necessarily, but just using shades of one colour. So I wasn't happy with this. I do like my Path there though. It really does look like we've got rocks floating in some inky liquid. So I was quite happy with that. And I like the patterns I've used, but it just doesn't feel right. You know, I put paving stones, almost like crazy paving, in the Path. But even then, even with colour, it just didn't feel right to me. So I abandoned it. Day 4 was Dodge, which I did here. And I wanted all these lines to dodge. And I thoroughly enjoyed drawing these lines. I'm going to tell you now, I really, really did. And they are dodging this. There is an area of blankness there around the word. So we have got them dodging and curling back on themselves and going away, you know, coming along, perhaps skidding along the edge of it and going off somewhere else. But I really enjoyed that. I haven't added any shading or any colour because I really don't know what to do with it yet. Perhaps one day I will, perhaps one day I won't. Perhaps that's enough for me. I reworked Path the other day, the 9th, just 3 days ago. And so I created my pathway with the word path repeated until I only got as far as PA there. And then added shapes and patterns. It's worked out quite nicely. But down here is just, I don't know. This side spoke to me more. It felt more me. This one is me, kind of, but it's just disjointed. And perhaps that's what the Path does. It separates something that's disjointed and chaotic to something that's a bit more coherent. Symbolically, perhaps that was on my mind. Oh, and I went to try for map and I just thought, what am I doing? So, what am I doing here? And then I went to this one. And this one is done. I created these flowers. I've got no idea whether I've seen them somewhere, whether they came out of my mind, my imagination, my pen as I drew, because sometimes I see lines and I know what happens to them. And the leaves I certainly have done before, but I really like that. That just works for me. 1 or 2 basic motifs, leaves, flowers, 3 if you count the stems. Just really, really simple, and yet it just works. It does need something doing to it, but again, it can remain. And then this is the one that I finished a couple of days ago, and I mostly like it. I say mostly because this here just doesn't feel like it fits in. But then I think that could be taken as symbolic of me and how bits of art don't seem to fit in for me as well at the moment, as I'm trying to find out what fits for me. I love Diva Dance here, but that doesn't seem to fit in either. I mean, I could be wrong. It could just be me going, I'm not sure about that. What I did enjoy doing here was trying pen textures to add to the depth, to the contrast, to the background, rather than graphite. And the highlights that are created in them or not. I desperately want to go and add colour to these, and I would want to do this with, I'd actually want to use alcohol markers. But I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. This part I could remedy just by filling it in black. Yeah, I smudged. That's why that's up there. But there are things, I like this. I like that way of filling it. Of course, I love flowers. These are the same flowers as before, so I made use of them. Again, I've got these curling shapes this here. And this shape, I think this was the shape I was redrawing in my mind. And I say in my mind, with my how I could feel how my hand would have to move to create that line or that kind of line again. And there was just I find it hard to describe my feelings, but there was a joy or a contentment or a pleasure in that shape, that line. And it's almost like I could trace it or draw it. And so, as I say, bits of the puzzle are coming together, but I still don't quite know how they fit. I may never know. It's a lifelong journey, isn't it? But this does need some more shading. I didn't quite know what to do with these leaves or these. I put a double another border inside these to help separate them from the background. I haven't done that here. I left myself open to options. This looks very bright and shiny almost in amongst everything else. So it takes a long time to do this kind of background. Let me see if I can find my other spider. I can. In fact, I think I did 2. So let me have a look. Yeah, that one and that one. So this is the one that I reworked. So I drew very similar spiders and put them on a web. But instead of flowers and things, I used this here and this here. So it looks like they're underwater spiders. And I've shaded with alcohol markers. Let me just move that down. And yeah, eyeballs have popped in. They're not eyeballs, they're seeds or bubbles or something. They're not meant to be eyeballs, but it happens with me for some reason. And I started adding colour with my chameleon markers. I added the grey shading and then started to add colour, and I realised I don't like the colours very much. I don't like this green. I didn't have a yellowy green in there. So they haven't got the colours that I wanted. So I've left that there for now. It's not a major problem to me because I achieved what I wanted to do, which was working with alcohol markers and using grey to see how it could bring shadows in. It's not intense enough a contrast in places, but it's there. And this one I actually did in a video that I made a couple of days ago, I thought I'd made. But I was absolutely incoherent. I couldn't hold my thoughts together as I was getting tireder. And this is just black and white. It's just grey. And do you know what? I'm happy with that as it is, and I love the dottiness. There's just something about it. I do think the leaves perhaps could do with some texture. This large area of grey here needed texture, so I put that in. but I quite like how that has turned out. The legs are different. I prefer these cuddlier ones and the really cuddly ones that were in my other book. Let me find it. Because I like cuddly. Spiders deserve to be cuddly. Yeah, these are quite cuddly, like that one, and that one, that one. Here they've got more spindly legs there, and this one's the more cuddly version. So I've been doing that. Again, my idea with this was to add colour and then come back and add texture and patterns if I wanted to, but I don't know yet. It's all been put to one side, and this is what I've been working on for the last couple of days. I did post an image of it on my social media, as it was partly done yesterday, along with the last one in my book, the one that's very black and white, or cream, ivory. The paper's not white like this one, and I've been adding a lot of texture with pen to this one to see what I can achieve, and also to rediscover the joy of this. It's something I moved away from a long time ago. Drawing colouring books don't add things like this, but I need to in my own art. And again, it's full of layers, full of texture, full of shapes that I enjoy. This one was a surprise that this one came out here. I think it's a Zentangle pattern. It's either garlic cloves or ravel or something similar, but it just felt like it would fit there, and because of the very, very dark background, it looks like this is very much above it. I've got to increase shadows around there, but I can do things as I come to it. This reminds me of onion skin under a microscope. Kid you not? But again, there's no shading there yet, nor here, and in many other places, as I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm working my way through things. I'm trying different ways of adding shading, so this is really a test piece in many ways, an experimental piece. I've got stippling here. I don't know if you can see. It's made out of tiny, tiny little dots. Here are tiny dots. This is a kind of cross-hatching where it's done in little sections in all directions, and you come back over it. And I've added lines where I want the darker colours, so it leaves a kind of highlight, so it looks like these are humping up in the middle. Scribbles and intensifying the scribbles. Here I've got to work on adding some darker areas. Done that here just by going over the scribbly bits, and here with lines over the tiny little dots, the tipple. Hasn't worked here. For this face appeared, as they tend to, and it hasn't really worked, but that's okay. It's fine. In the grand scheme of things, it will all be fine, I'm sure. And I can see where I've got little gaps in black lines up here to add. This is interesting because I've got shapes here. So I've got this as a section. This one over here is a section, but these are underneath them. So that will be interesting to add pattern or colour to. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do, or shading. It may just require shading with an alcohol marker, because these will have shading added to them. I say alcohol marker, whether it's an alcohol marker or something else, I don't know. This turns into a weird kind of face there. And this one looks almost like there's a dragon hiding behind its egg, which was completely unintended, and a sun has crept out here. But yeah, it's taken me a couple of days. I haven't even dated it yet, because I'll put the date on it. You can't see. Put my initials there, but I haven't dated it yet. And yet those big pieces of paper came out here. I take them out so that when I'm working in the book, the paper here will get damaged, but nothing else will. And if I want to work on the back, the other pages don't get mucky. So that's where I am, and that's why I'm at a bit of a quandary. It's also why I started playing with paper and junk journals, because I love what I see people do. I thought, I bet you I can do one with all my... But I'm not entirely sure I'm feeling that either. I'm at a funny place, which is why I've come here to talk, because I know I can talk to you. And you may find yourself in this position, or you may have found yourself in this position. This isn't the first time I think I found myself here. And part of the problem, I think, is that when you post on social media, you can see what things other people like and what they don't like. And it can be very tempting and is very beguiling to create things that people will say they love and they think it's amazing, and keep doing that. But there comes a point when I get very jaded with that, because it is me, but it's not me. It's not me doing what I need to do. I work for a company a couple of times a year creating colouring books, where I work to somebody else's, sort of like I have a brief, a title to work to. I get given some ideas to work with, but I have to remain within that idea. And I know the style of art they want, which is it's my cute and whimsical, and with some entangled and stylized art in there, which is fine. It's interesting to do, but it can be hard as well, because it takes me away from what's truly me, I guess. This doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing YouTube, because I'm a teacher. It's part of who I am. Not just that I worked for 27, 28 years as a teacher, but it's just part of my nature. I like to share, and I like to help others grow and to find their own way of doing things. And I really do mean that, your own way. I know how valuable it is to copy or be inspired by other people's work, especially when you're trying to find your own way. And I still get inspired by work, but I think it's always been there. I think I've said this before about my love of arts and crafts, about my love of medieval manuscripts, of prehistory, of fossils, of nature. It's always there for me. I mean, I've got I've got a lot of photographs still on my camera. I still haven't had the focus to get them onto my computer, so I can use them as inspiration for sketches and for stylized work that I can then incorporate into drawings like this. This one's incredibly busy. I did set out with the aim of having empty space. You can see how well that worked, can't you? Technically, I guess this is empty space, but I mean, there's just, what can I say? So I'll be continuing to do this. I'll be continuing to look at things that I know you'll find interesting, and things that I love, and sharing hints and tips. And perhaps this is the channel where I can play with other media or use other media to get that itch out of me, as it were, scratch that itch. But when I've been drawing in black and white, just with pen on paper, I say black and white, pen on paper, because I know I'm going to really enjoy drawing with coloured inks. I have done already. That there is just something about that. It's about the feel of the pen in my hand. It's about the way it moves on the paper. And this was done with, I think, Sakura Microns, 05 and then 01 for the very tiny stippling and everything else. And I'm thinking I really need finer ones than that, because the 01, even the 01's a bit big for some of these small places. Anyway, I really do enjoy that. And I know that I can share bits of this with you. So there might be motifs or ideas I come up with that you might find useful to incorporate into your own work, or to take and make it your own, which is what would make me happier than anything, that I've inspired you to go, I like that, but I think I'd prefer it to work it this way. Or, I can't draw it your way, Angela, but I'll draw it my way. And you like your way of doing it. Nothing will make me happier, because you are then discovering yourself. And art is all a discovery. It's all about discovering yourself. As I've said, I think a couple of the jigsaw pieces may have dropped. Now, whether I remember these as I go forward, because I am well known for swapping and changing mid-project, mid-thought. I do need to do new and different things, because they feed into me, but they also give me that opportunity, I think, to go back and go, actually, this is me. That's not me. This is me. So I will be continuing with this. How much Zentangle? Don't know. I like patterns. I love things like that. It's bound to creep in, because, it's part and parcel of what I do. But how's that going to work? I don't know. 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 I do have a desire to create, like, pages for letters, or, you know, even if I can use such things in email or backgrounds on social media posts where they've got a border of art on and lovely colours on the background, that would make me happy. It's a nice, quick, easy project. I want to draw on coloured paper I've coloured myself, as well as coloured paper I have. And if I use coloured paper, then I've got the perfect opportunity to use dark colours and white, darker version of the coloured paper and white, to create highlight and shadow, and using the colour of the paper. So that's always something I'm likely to do. Obviously, drawing something like this, this has taken me 2 days' work so far, isn't something that I'm going to be able to show easily on YouTube from beginning to end. But I can take sections and show you those, or motifs, or ways that I've done things, techniques I've used. Like, hopefully this looks like rock here. I've overdone the shading possibly, or I perhaps haven't used enough contrast to get shading in the nooks and crannies there. But I haven't done anything more than add texture. I've used texture as shading, but I do know I need to add more shading here. Again, I'd like to use alcohol markers, but what I might do is finish all the pen work, scan it in, so then I've got a copy before I start mangling it on the paper version. Or not mangling it, it may work out. Just using very simple greys. I've got a passion for green greys and blue greys, for example, which I know would work here, or brownie greys, which would work. But only one of them, you know, to keep it simple and to see where we go with it. So I don't know if that makes sense. As to other things, I've had a number of IBS flare-ups. Some have been from suddenly stressful situations. Some have been from peopling, that always cause me problems. Some adulting I've had to do, that causes me problems. But I also discovered, was it yesterday or the day before, I'd actually basically gone vegan. I've gone vegan. So I've stopped any dairy. I don't eat eggs generally anyway. I mean, it's not going to be a big no-no for me, probably, because I really do enjoy my cheese, and I really do enjoy butter, for example. But I found a plant milk that I like, and it's by Alpro. It's called Shh, This Is Not Milk. And it's actually nice. It's oat milk, but it's got that creaminess that milk has. And I can actually, it's palatable in tea or coffee or in my porridge in the morning. So I found something that I like. Hurrah, at last. And oat milk. I have to shy away from soya products. And I find soya milk very powdery and dries my mouth. So I found the right answer here. But, you know, I've had that to contend with, and that has a knock-on effect of tiredness and discomfort and a lack of motivation for things. So it's been a bit of a couple of weeks for things, and I you know, when I have days where I don't have any IBS symptoms, I realise, when I have a flare-up, I realise how much discomfort I'm in, and I'm realising that I've been living with that discomfort for a long time, and it's just been getting worse and worse. So fingers crossed. You know, I've had to reach for Imodium a couple of times, but only a couple of times, because, you know, luckily once the offending food is out of my system, it seems that I sort of settle back down mostly, though I had to when I had cheese and butter on a baked potato, and I thought it might have been the dry vegetable curry I'd made, but it wasn't, because I had the remainder of that cold yesterday and had no problems with it. So I'm going, oh, no dairy, no onion, no garlic. It's fine. It's working out fine. It's little bits of things, and you know I've got to book an appointment to speak to the doctor again about this and see whether I'm winning in his opinion or not, you know, or improving. So yeah, it's all part and parcel of things. So this is 40 minutes of blather. I'm not going to do any drawing in this video. I'm just going to post this as an update with a look at some art that I've done. And just say that next video I will do some drawing. And I'm not saying all of this for sympathy or anything else, because I know I'm working on this. I know I'm working on getting better. It's just going to take time until everything just comes together. And, you know, don't forget, I'm perimenopausal as well. That doesn't help. I'm just there going, what? And it's just an update so you know where I've been, that I haven't abandoned you. I haven't abandoned YouTube. I've just had to look after myself a bit. And I have been for a number of months now. It's been a heck of a year. You know, since last November, it's been a heck of a time. And it's all taken its toll, I think. And it's just that time and space that I've needed. And I know that I'm getting more days where I'm a bit more with it and perky, and life's well, and then I have to go out and do some shopping, because it's very hard for me to do I will eventually work out how to do a food shop online again, with a company where I know I can get things that I can eat and I like and are fine for me. But corn's off the menu as well. Corn. Oh dear goodness. Yeah, the one thing I was hoping would be my saving grace isn't. Yeah, I do enjoy corn. Not all of it, but I kid you not. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting as I adjust how I eat. Whether it remains that way forever, I don't know, but I just want to see if I can soothe my digestive system by avoiding all of these things for the time being. And if I have to avoid them forever, I will. Oh, and to help me in this, I actually sent off a sample of hair to a company that will use it to find out what intolerances or allergies and things you have. Yeah, your hair. I guess because it contains DNA like your blood does. So I should have those results back within a week. So that'll be interesting. Yes, I did look into the science of it. So, so it will confirm if what I found is true, and then I can make use of that in planning eating. And you're thinking, how on earth am I going to eat out? Because I do enjoy going out for a meal. I'm thinking, it may be that I take a big supply of Imodium with me. I take Imodium before I have the meal, and then I keep it close by me for a couple of days. Because you have to remember that social events and being with people are as important as anything else, you know, and sometimes you have to give a bit to gain a lot. So I'm happy to give a couple of days of discomfort, or a week if necessary, to really have a lovely time with people I care about. And yeah, so that's where we are. So I'll stop wittering and I'll say thank you for listening. And I hope you can find some inspiration in this. I hope, as I've been talking, you've been having a good look, particularly at this drawing, because it's the last one or the others, and have noticed something in them that you go, I rather like that. How has she done that? I'm going to have a go myself. For example, this is just one wobbly line drawn, and then a second one on the top. And it's the shading on either side that separate it from the others, same down here. I could have made this one the white one and these ones darker, but I didn't. It's all choice. That's because I really wanted this to stand up from these, but yet it seems to be bending downwards here as if it's going underneath there. Who knows? I've got a river of rocks. So, thank you. Take care now, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next couple of days. I can't say it'll be tomorrow. It depends what my energy's like, but we'll see what happens. So thank you for listening. Take care now. Bye. Oh, and don't forget, be creative, won't you? Bye.